Hello, I am Verde Arbusto. This is the Schumann Resonance Harmonics channel on YouTube and on Facebook, and I would like to thank you for being here today with me to help observe the Schumann Resonances. So let me get into it, and so we have here this is the last 2 days of the Schumann Resonance from Tomsk. And in case you didn't know and you're new here, Tomsk is actually the city of Tomsk in Russia. Technically, it's Siberia, the Siberia part of Russia. And the place where they do this is the Tomsk State University. They have a department of that. It's the Space Observing System, S.O.S. And those are the folks, the wonderful folks that give us this update on the Schumann every day, or pretty much every day. The machine is always running. Sometimes it has trouble making it to us through the servers and whatever, but they do continuously monitor the Schumann resonances. All right, so what we're looking at today, I've written this out before, and I will just give a basic. I always try and keep to the basics so people understand what they're looking at. All right, so the first part here is the spectrogram. This is it's a composite of the dependencies. So this right here that I'm moving my cursor from, this is the spectrogram. Then underneath that is A, this is amplitude. Amplitude is electrics. The electric part, the electric moves perpendicular up, up, up and down, basically from the ionosphere to the Earth. And then it transits perpendicularly or upright, and it comes in the amplitude comes in first, comes in hot and heavy, and then after that it starts moving over to the magnetic portion, and it's the magnetic portion which travels around the globe. There is electrics and magnetics both, but it moves from being this type of a signal to that way. Okay, and so that's one of the differences between the electric and the magnetic side is the direction it moves. The amplitude is a plasma type amorphous state that's held together by an electric charge, whereas the wave or the harmonics or the magnetic portion is what moves in a coherent wave. It bounces from the earth up to the ground, up to the sky, back to the earth, back up to the sky, and it does this for a while until it transits around the world a number of times. And what it does is eventually it meets up with itself, and it starts interfering with the earlier portion of the wave. All right. So this is the quality, and this is the frequency. Frequency is measured in kilometers, and so when we look at frequency f1, we see the distance of the distance and the wavelength from wave to wave of 7.3 to 8.2. These are kilometers once again. So these are the smaller wavelengths. This is a little bit bigger. This is a little bit bigger. And this is the biggest size of the wavelengths, which moves from 23.8 all the way to 27.7. And you can see if you look at it, they almost kind of, these things almost sort of fit into each other. So 7 to 8, and then 12.6 to 14, and then what's this, 18 to 20, and then 23 to 27. So it's not exactly, but one, you have a short wavelength and the next one, and then the medium, and then you have the big one. All right. Okay. So that's basically what you're looking at here. The spectrogram is a composite of all of these images below it. All right. So those who've been around here for long enough, this is not new. You've heard this before. This is for the newcomers, so you know what's happening. All right. So what we're seeing here is you're seeing the magnetic frequency of 7.83. And this is a fairly solid line going across. It doesn't move in frequency. It's not going up. The 7.83 frequency is not going to be moving up. The frequency of the Schumann resonances is not moving up because there's a bunch of constants: the speed of light, the Earth to ionosphere cavity, the size and shape of the ionosphere, the size and the shape of the Earth itself. These are a big part of what hold consistent the frequency of the Schumann resonances. All right. So you see here, they're kind of waving in and out. There's a part where it's thin and then it goes back to being fatter and this and that. All right. So the electric portion comes in first, then it changes over to magnetics, which go ding, 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 and then eventually, after they have established themselves around the world enough times and have beaten each other up enough times, the magnetics move over to gravity. So this is what you have is it's not a gravity wave per se, as what they call gravity waves. Okay, this is a gravity frequency, if you will. It's held locked in place. It's not a proper wave because waves, they propagate like that, like ocean waves. Okay, these don't. These have already propagated around the world and they've reinforced themselves. So these are standing at this frequency. The harmonics are standing at these frequencies at 7.8, and there's a big glob here at 14.1, give or take, and then you have another one here at 21.7, and then there's another one here at roughly 27.1, and then you have this fifth harmonic here of 33.6. I think it's 33.6 or 33.7, whatever, but it's around 33 and a half. Okay, so you will notice that there are under frequencies that are under the 7.8. These are you notice how straight the lines are. Okay. So one of the things that we look at when we look at a flat line is what I have called a dedicated frequency. So if it's 4 or 3 or 2, there's a dedicated frequency in here moving at that uh, when I say dedicated frequency, what that means is it's a machine that operates at a certain frequency. And so it's putting out electromagnetic radiation at that frequency. Here it's 25. I make the claim that's electric trains. There's another dedicated frequency line here. You can see it at 16.7. And there's another one at approximately 10 or 11 that you can see, and these ones here are dedicated frequencies. Now you got to keep in mind with the harmonics that waves of vastly different frequencies, or waves with different frequencies, can get together, and the difference between them creates a harmonic. So the difference of two wavelengths will create a harmonic, and that can be what some of this up here is. But this is what I'm going to call local interference, because you don't find these on all of the maps of the Schumann resonances. Okay, so this is one of the things that we're talking about, is knowing the difference between local interference and what happens with the rest of the world relative to the Schumann resonances. Okay, we have this right here marks today, the 15th. So yesterday, we had a peak in three modes, a synchronous, what I call a synchronous peak. These are synchronous modes when they all act basically identical. There's a little difference between here and there, but they all act fairly much the same. We had a little difference today here at, actually, it's right before midnight, it looks like. So last night, this is the number on the bottom is Tomsk local time. This number on the tops is UTC time. All right. So Tomsk local time is around midnight. UTC time is 7 o'clock into today. This was 7 o'clock this morning UTC time. Okay. So we see these modes of synchronous modes here, there, from basically here, all this here, all this here. This is synchronous till it gets to about here, and then you see the yellow kind of breaks off and it does its own thing. this is a certain band of certain spectrum range of the electric portion of the Schumann resonances. Okay. The the electrics and the magnetics go together. So you see you had a big spike which went up to 20, which is significant. There was 20 there as well. And then you have down here, you look up the A2, which is yellow, and then Q2, which is quality. So this is amplitude mode 2, and this is quality mode 2. All right, so the amplitude and you see the two of them, the amplitude and quality together, make a uh, synchronous motion between the two of them. The amplitude and the quality is requited, what I call requited, which means they're acting together as a team. Okay, they're married, essentially. So when you get the quality as a rule of thumb, this is how I consider this. If you're getting synchronous mode between all four of these, especially all four of them, but the top three. So if you're getting like signals, synchronous mode, what I'm calling, you see these peaks match up there, peaks match up there, the peaks match up there, the peaks, if you look, the wave form is similar across these three modes. Okay, so that is what I'm calling synchronous mode, and that is essentially where you get, how do I put this? The higher up the voltage is coming, the closer those portions of the signal are going to be. I've said this before. I'm not sure if this makes sense to people. When I say it, it certainly makes sense to me. Um, but it's one of the things that we're looking for in determining the difference between this one, in determining where it's coming from or what its strength is. If you see the amplitude matching up as you do here, okay, there you see the amplitude matches up again, and the A2, which is the yellow, it's matching up fairly well. Okay, now the line graphs, the line signal is matching up fairly well between, today. It's just today. We're just talking about today, between the red mode, the yellow mode, and the white mode. It's they're the quality and the amplitude are matching fairly well, which means that it's a lower originating signal from the atmosphere. So when the quality and the electrics, the quality and the amplitude match up, it's a lower, relative to the atmosphere, it's a lower atmosphere originating phenomena, as opposed to when the amplitude is synchronous mode across the board, like before this peak. This is a good picture of synchronous mode. This is 1, 2, 3, up to for almost for the last 48 hours. We had a good picture of the synchronous mode up to this big peak. The amplitude is acting similarly among itself, and then the quality is acting closer to itself, where you see these jagged lines. Jagged lines. They're all fairly acting similarly, except for this quality 2, which has both. You can see it's reacting, this and that are reacting together. This and that is reacting together, give or take. The green mode, amplitude A4 and Q4 are acting in synchronous mode. So hopefully this isn't too confusing for you, but that's one of the things I wanted to point out is synchronous mode versus requited uh, signal. Okay, the synchronous mode is where all three of these are working the same. Requited mode is where you have the example of amplitude 2 is matching up with quality 2. Okay, so there's two different ways that the signal can propagate it, depending on where it's coming from and how far it's bounced around the atmosphere. All right, now one of the things that I want to point out is this line here at 33.3. Even though there has been, and higher, This is not a Schumann resonance here, by the way. The Schumann resonances are in multiples of 6.6. So it starts here. Your base harmonic is 7.8, and then another 6.6 will give you 14, and then another 6.6 gives you 20.1. Then another 6.6 gives you 27.1, and then you have 33. Okay, so this line here is just something that's just been recently showing up in the last couple weeks, not even 2 weeks. Is this? I don't want to call it a solid line, but it is um, a definite frequency line at 33 hertz, give or take, and it kind of bounces up and down depending on what the ionosphere is doing. Um, uh, you'll get frequency jumps when the ionosphere kind of comes down to us. When the ionosphere comes down a little bit, compresses, solar radiation hits the ionosphere, compresses into us, forces the those atoms and forces the electrons lower down into us, and that raises the rate, the periodicity of the Schumann resonance, because it's a shorter cavity now, and it's creating a higher density. All right. One of the things that we're looking at here is that this Schumann harmonics resonance here is locked in place. Okay. This is gravity. This is essentially gravity holding it in place, and this is not going to be increasing or decreasing because of, again, the constants of the ionosphere, the atmospheric cavity, and the size and shape of the Earth. Okay. However, they do fluctuate, like I said, depending on how the atmosphere compresses. Um, when we're looking at white here, this is the white of the white mode. Okay. This spike is an amplitude spike. Same thing as this. These are spikes in amplitude, even though you don't really find them here so much. They are spikes. You look, you don't necessarily see a spike, 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 spike. You don't necessarily see a spike, not like this or not like this. You can tell that. Okay. However, it is incoming energy. And that's important to remember, that the Schumann resonance is only measuring, the antennas are only measuring what's coming into what's in the environment. It's not picking up your thoughts. The Schumann resonances are not picking up your conscious intention. The Schumann resonances are not picking up, how do I say this? The Schumann resonances are not picking up anything outside of radio waves. Okay. Now, this right here is a higher frequency of resonance. And I will tell you that one of the ways that you can get that is if the atmosphere kind of tightens up a little bit and creates a how do I say this? Like a spring. If you took a spring and kind of condensed it down some, okay, that's one of the things that's happening to create that higher resonance. Is you've narrowed down the cavity that the waves can bounce in. Okay, so this technically is how you can get this line. Technically, you can't get this line from a raising of consciousness, because that doesn't show. There's no way that the antenna picks that up. The antenna can't read minds. The Schumann resonance antenna is not a mind reader. So, the timeline shift, that's a mental construct. Um, your better intentions, people acting better toward each other, doesn't show up on the Schumann resonances unless you can tell me what frequency that is. And no, automatically, that's not 33 hertz of you thinking of others first. That's not acting at 33 hertz, because you still have this down here you got to make your way through. The Schumann chart starts at 0, and then it goes up. Ba-ding, 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 ba-ding. And you yourself may not be at this 33 hertz level of functioning as an individual, unless you can tell me you call the sun when it's raining, if you can tell me you can do that and you can verify that, I'll say, well, yeah, that might be you operating at that frequency, but you alone are not the one that's causing that. Okay. The greater argument is made that the cavity of the Earth is kind of condensing in. Okay. I don't know what frequency your mind is operating at, and neither does the Schumann resonance. Chances are your frequency, your mental thoughts, is much, 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 much higher than 33 hertz. This is the lowest of the low, even here, 33 hertz. This is the lowest of the low. Um, but essentially, though, this right here, this 33 hertz harmonic is, how do I say this? Eventually, it goes from the electrics are upright, the quality is horizontal, and then established over the course of time, you get these. Okay, so these are density. It's not taking a density out from you. This is not removing your density. This is attracting you to this frequency. Your densities, unless you have gotten rid of them. You asked the creator God, you asked the archangels, your spiritual guides to get rid of help you get rid of your densities. These are blockages in your DNA, blockages of things that have happened in your family before you were ever born that have affected you in ways you don't know. That has to get cleared out first. There's a lot of the density in a person's genes you yourself need to clear out, and the universe is not doing for you. So that's what the Schumann resonances are here for you, is to act like a magnet to these frequencies. So if you haven't cleared out the lowest of the low, this is where you gravitate toward the 7.8, and that's at the fear, the root chakra, the fear level of frequency of the lowest of the low. So unless it's like metal. If you have metal in you somewhere, a pin or screws or something, you're not ever going through the metal detector. The metal detector is always going to, if you got a metal plate in your head, uh, you're wearing metal, you got metal in your pores or something, you will always be attracted to the magnets. And it's the same thing here with you as a person, that the lower densities gravitate toward this established density of 7.83. They're magnets. You are a magnet, this is an electromagnet, and it's pulling you in. If you are still operating at the 7.83 hertz, you're getting sucked in by the 7.83 frequency density wave. It's a best kind of way to put it is it's a density wave. It's now uh, it's gone from being invisible to you can feel it to it's now holding you in place. And so that's why it's important for you to clear out these lower densities so that you are not resonating with them. Okay. Um, so a lot of this I've talked about I've talked about before. When you see a spike in amplitude like this, you'll also notice a drop in frequency like you do here. That's another way of showing to you that amplitude is not frequency. Amplitude does not get measured in hertz. Amplitude is not a frequency, it's not a wave. Amplitude is a spike. Spike that comes in hot and heavy, quick, and then it goes away. And when that happens, the uh, the the frequency, which are the wavelengths of it, they drop down. While we're getting in new stuff, the frequency drops down. Okay, that's what this is. And the peak, the spike, the peak of the amplitude matches almost perfectly with the dip in the frequency. See, it was up there high, way high, way high, way high, and then it dipped down there. That corresponds with a rise in the amplitude. Okay. All right, and so you can see the synchronous, requited um, action between amplitude 4 and quality 4. The green is the wave that's closest to Earth, it's closest to us, and it's the one that affects us the most. And I want to mention something here. This 73 number is way off the chart. I guess it's not technically, it's not off the chart, but that 73 number is a big high number for magnetics. Usually it doesn't go that high. Usually we see like 26 or 31. This magnetics number is twice as high as I've ever seen it before. And you got to remember the magnetics are the horizontal. That wasn't horizontal. That's horizontal. Yeah, more or less. The magnetics are the horizontal, and these are the actual resonances themselves. The amplitude spikes are like charging. The amplitude is not the Schumann resonances. The amplitude is like hitting a bell that's already ringing. You know, you just kind of re-change the sound, but it's already ringing. It's already moving around the world. And these amplitude spikes coming in, like I said, like I showed you, the amplitude spikes cause a dip in the frequency. So therefore, these amplitude waves are not the Schumann resonances. These are electric spikes. You're basically getting electrocuted by the atmosphere. That's the best way to put it. So the as a result of hold on a sec. As a result of these amplitude spikes, you're basically getting electrified. And so the electrics, the amplitude affects the top part of you first, mostly the top of you, top down. Okay. The amplitude comes top down, it moves through you. You can, as I've said before, you could be the path of least resistance. You could be the path of least resistance if you choose to let it move through you. A lot of people hold on to the pains, hold on to, oh my God, this hurts so much, and they hold on to it. They hold on to it. Rather than let it go, the biggest cause of the ascension, the phantom symptoms, is people not letting it go. And they're holding on to it. Oh my God, I have this. What do I do with it? Let it go. Very simply, give it to the earth, give it to the ground. That's what grounding is. In its most simple component, grounding is you letting go of the electrical charge. So the amplitude, the electric charge hits you in the top of the head first, gives you sinus trouble because your third eye is like your pineal is likely calcified, gives you trouble in your sinuses, gives you headache. Your thinking is fuzzy, cognition errors, no new memories. You can't focus on what people are saying. This is all in the heavy electric days. Okay. Then gets grounded into you. You feel nerves. You feel your nerves twitching sometimes. Like I feel like it Morse code on my leg, especially on my leg. I know something's coming in. I know it's a heavy electric day. All right. So the electric comes in. Hopefully you will ground it and not be affected by it. The electric comes in. You ground it, and then it bounces back up, returns as magnetics. It's grounded into the earth. Now it returns back up as magnetics. Now what you're feeling is the bottom side up. So my joints, my knees, connective tissues are affected. Heart rate might be affected, both in the electric side and in both in the electric side coming down, electrics coming down, magnetics going up. In in either one of these exchanges, I can have heart palpitations because the heart is a muscle and it is also receiving electric signals. So the the piezoelectric effect is the electrics that are activating on your crystals in your ear, crystal in your pineal, crystal in your bone, these kind of things. So it feels like there's a weight or a pressure with the electrics coming in, especially in your head, your sinuses, and all of that. Then when that goes, and the immediate effect of the piezoelectric effect, I've written a lot about this, the piezoelectric effect, it eventually that will dissipate, and then you're stuck with the magnetic part, of which are the waves. And so, um, your joints, muscles, ligaments, tendons, uh, these will feel the magnetics. Um, I'm not sure where in there uh, hunger or loss of appetite fits in there, but if you understand that they're chemical processes, and it's not so much electric so much as it's the chemical process, that is more likely to be affected by the magnetic side than the amplitude side. That said, if you're getting electrocuted by the and 40 is not a high amplitude day. I don't care what you say, 40 is not that high of a day. These are pico electron volts. This is not volts. This is not 40 volts. This is it's a decibel reading of 40 pico electron volts, and a pico is 10 times negative 15. So it's 15 zeros before the one. All right. So the effect of the amplitude and the quality are going to do two different things, and I've written about in multiple places. I posted it about the ringing in the ears and the vertigo. All right, so the ringing in the ears is caused by the magnetic induction down here, and the vertigo is more caused by the electrics hitting the crystals of your ear. Your ear has two functions. One is for balance, and the other is for hearing. So the amplitude part is more likely to affect the balance, and the magnetics equality is more likely to affect the ringing in your ears due to magnetic induction. All right. So this was supposed to be a short video. Most of my videos aren't really short. Um, 30 minutes isn't really a short video. Even, I guess for me it is. All right. So this was just this is today's um, discussion on the Schumann resonance out of Tomsk. This is what you're seeing. And I think that's about it for today. Thank you all for being here. I very much appreciate your time, your support, and your love. And I know that there's a few of you who follow the Schumann resonances every day, who like hearing what I have to say, and I appreciate that. And I have to remember that there are people. Um, Let me say this so I can look in the I have to remember that there are people who want to hear me speak and who want to hear me talk about the Schumann resonances more than other people, more than the interpretation of other people. I'll put it that way. And I need to remember that because I can get discouraged. I'm telling you this face to face. I can get discouraged in doing this, and it's easy for me to say, who am I? No one really cares. This is just whatever. It's a hobby. I'm not getting paid for this. So it's easy to just dismiss this as a hobby, and I'll go back to working on the bikes and my landscaping job, and this is whatever. I already got this down. What do I need to post videos for? So I need to hear from people that you've gotten something from this, because I'm really not. I myself am not learning something doing this. I've already learned. I go to the literature. So I really do appreciate people who tell me I needed to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, there's no reason for me to do this. That's how I think. That's how I feel, and if you were here, you were looking at me in the eye, and that's what I would say. So please, if you like what I have to say, like, share, subscribe, share it with my name, give the reference of where you got it from, and tell people. That's the only way that it's really going to get out, because I don't have the wherewithal to market myself. Um, I am just saying that as plainly and simply as possible. Um, I really need your help in helping me want to be here to do this. Um, thank you, everyone. Thank you for all the support I've gotten, and this is me coming from my heart. I appreciate the comments that I get. I need the support. And thank you all very much for being here. I appreciate it. Have a great day.